was man who changed the day. In God's word, no change appears through the whole 6,000 years. Welcome, 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 welcome. Glad we hear its presence blessed. Tis the great Jehovah's rest. Thus I searched, and when I saw only one great Sabbath law, then I hastened to obey. Plainly 'twas the only way. Welcome, 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 ever welcome. Glad we hear His presence blessed. 'Tis the great Jehovah's rest. Don't forget the Sabbath, the Lord our God has blessed. Of all the week, the brightest, of all the week, the best. It brings repose from labor, it tells of joy divine. Its beams of light descending, with heavenly beauty shine. Welcome, welcome, ever welcome, blessed Sabbath day. Welcome, welcome, ever welcome, blessed Sabbath day. Keep the Sabbath holy and worship it today. Who said to his disciples, I am the living way. And if we meekly follow our Savior here below, in Jesus of the fountain whose streams eternal flow. Welcome, welcome, ever welcome, blessed Sabbath day. Welcome, welcome, ever welcome, blessed Sabbath day. Day of sacred pleasure, its golden hours we spend in thankful hymns to Jesus, the children's dearest friend. O gentle, loving Savior, how good and kind thou art. How precious is thy promise to dwell in every heart. Welcome, welcome. till we rise to reign with thee. Amen.
Welcome to our Sabbath school for today. And I pray that as we participate that we will all be blessed.
Amen.
Let us begin with prayer. Let us begin with prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this another Holy Sabbath day for us. We thank you that you have woken us up in our right mind, that we are able to acknowledge this day. But Lord, we know it's not about the day in itself, but about you who have created this day. And so, Lord, as we have gathered in your name, we ask for your Holy Spirit to be in our midst, to bless us and to edify us, so that we will be drawn closer to you. Those who are on their way, give them journey mercies and be with your people all over the world as we unite and lift up your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Alright, so for this week, we will be looking at our health message story. For the next couple of weeks, we'll be looking at the health message. But the emphasis this week is the story of our health message. And our foundation scripture is 3 John 1 verse 2. That is our foundation scripture for our health. And we're asking that you turn to 3 John 1 verse 2. And I'm asking for someone to read it first. 3 John 1 verse 2.
The Lord shall lift above all things that thou mayest prosper in his health, even as thy soul prospers. Amen.
Amen. And so I hope that you have all gotten our form. So as we go through the lesson, I'm asking you to fill out the slots so you can have it for reference as you revise. Alright? Now, what is our health message? That's the first question. Anyone want to ask? I don't have the screen to show the answers, so I'll just have to read them. Anyone want to explain what is our health message?
I would say our health message is practice healthful living, both physical and spiritual.
Okay. Yes, it's a message of, sorry.
And as it is said, it is the right arm of the gospel.
Yes, it is a message of restoration of God's image in man. To make us perfect in health of body and soul. It can also be said that it is a message of reformation to the laws of God, so that we can be fitted to finish the work and be prepared for the coming of Christ. Right? Now, when did we first receive the health message? When did we first receive the health message? Correct. And we can when we look at Genesis 1 and 2, you see where God, showed them what was best to eat. He said God took man and he placed him in the garden so that he will be active, both physically and mentally, and all of that. He created the sun so that man can get the benefit of the sun and all of those things. So that's correct. Our health message was first given in the Garden of Eden. Sin and sickness was not a part of God's plan. It is a departure from his ideal that results in sickness and even death. Why did we receive the health reform message? And reform means going back to something that was already practiced, right? As we said, we have already received the health message the Garden of Eden. So now God gave us a health reform message. And basically it's the going back to God's ideal. In Testimonies, Volume 9, page 112, it says, the work of health reform is the Lord's means for lessening suffering in our world and for purifying His church. Teach the people that they can act as God's helping hand by cooperating with the master worker in restoring physical and spiritual health. Testimony Volume 9, page 112. Alright, so when Christ was expected to come the second time in the 1800s, there were many reforms. One of those reforms was the health reform. Now let us look at Exodus 15, verse 26. And I'm asking for somebody to read it. Exodus 15, verse 26.
And said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and wilt do that which is right in his sight, and wilt give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee.
Amen. So in adhering to the laws of God, we also adhere to the laws of health, correct?
Amen.
But as the knowledge of God became distinct to man, so did the knowledge of health, so did the preservative guidelines, and sickness and disease increased. Straight throughout the Bible, there is an emphasis on what constitutes good health, and if we abide, it will be well with us. In the early church, record shows that many physicians understood cause and effect in relation to health and diseases. But then came a change where persons began to believe the soul was separate from the body, and so they paid more attention to the soul, concluding that diseases were caused by spirits, and so they started practicing healing by exorcism. Yes. And so as the knowledge of God grew dark in the Middle Ages, so did the health practices. In the 1100s, the church banned any medical practices in Western Europe, and so persons had to flee Europe if they wanted to still practice medicals. Everything was considered mystical. Rather than lifestyle changes, they dealt with disease by exorcism.
Yes, and when we study verses 2, we learned about Merlin, a nurse who she believed that whenever her patient had mental illness, it was a sign of demon possession. So what she would do is drum.
So we would have answered question 1, 2, and 3 already, right?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Question 3. The question is, why did we receive the health reform message? And basically, God gave.
Going back to
It's for us to go back to His ideal. Alright. Now the Renaissance brought about the beginning of a change in the 16th century, and we know the Renaissance was a fervent period of European cultural change. It was a rebirth of many things. Now in the mid-19th century, early 1800, when our church began, there was no knowledge of chemistry, physics, physiology, no scientific investigation of how the body works. Deaths from infections were high because they did not know about germs until 1860s. Now, the fourth question is, what were the causes of many diseases in that time? Sorry. There's a
Number 4.
Just answer number 5 now. What were the causes of many diseases in that time? So, yes, I'm going to list some now. So they did not understand the link between uncleanliness and diseases. body waste was not properly dealt with. Proper nutrition was not understood. Preservation of food, such as pickling and smoking, were a big cause of many sicknesses. High salt intake, high temperatures in heating oil, meat preparation, common use of tobacco, alcohol, coffee and tea were common. Working numerous hours, 7 days a week, living in an overpopulated settings, these produce many diseases. And also, white flour was expensive in that time and only the rich could afford it. It was a desired product by everyone, but they did not understand that this refined product was contributing to many of the diseases they were facing. Now, when it started to be produced cheaply, what happened? The poorer class was now able to afford it, and health issues escalated, where refined flour was concerned. They had a misunderstanding of what caused disease, but as they started to understand the cause of disease, the therapies improved. And now number 4 question. How was fever treated? Anybody know how fever was treated back then? No, back then? Alright. Medical treatments were worthless, harmful, and dangerous. To treat a fever, the patient would be placed in a dark room without water. They would then drain some of the blood, thinking there was an imbalance in fluid. So remember that one of the things why they would do that, because they think the
body was separate from the soul.
From the soul. So they doing this was their idea, or their solution of treating the fever by draining some of the blood. And it was, as I said, it was a dangerous procedure. A lot of heavy metal was also used during those times, such as mercury, nicotine, opium. And I'm going to read an example of George Washington. And all of this is taken from the book called The Story of Our Health Message by D.E. Robinson. So, alright, he said, just at the turn of the 19th century, George Washington was stricken with a sickness that in a few days was proved fatal. As soon as he realized that he was seriously ill, he sent not for a physician, but for a bleeder, right? Who took from his veins about 14 ounces of blood. The next morning, the family physician was called, who, discovering the case to be highly alarming, called 2 other doctors for a consultation. While waiting for them, he directed a second copious bleeding. Upon the arrival of the first of his consultant in the afternoon, it was agreed to try the result of another bleeding, when about 32 ounces of blood were drawn without the slightest alleviation of the disease. This debilitating treatment was supplemented by the application of blisters, the administration of calomel, repeated doses of tartar emetic, and frequent inhalations of vapors of vinegar and water. It is not surprising to learn from a contemporary report that Washington's last request, understood with great difficulty because of all that bleeding and the different methods that they were using, he basically said, just leave me die in peace. I understand. So it was a very dangerous way of seeking to give treatment back then. And the thing about it, after administering these treatments, they did not look and say, this treatment is not working. Rather, they would say, he was already in a dire state, or some excuse like that. Alright. Medical treatment was poor, and so persons started trying alternative approaches that proved effective. These approaches were simpler, and so they spread and became popular. Now, in 1777, there became a change, and that was of the accidental discovery of hydrotherapy. In 1777, a doctor on a ship was losing his sailors to typhus disease. Those who were extremely sick would be placed in the bottom of the ship. So many got sick, it became full. So the ones who looked like they were dying, he took them and placed them on the deck, and filled their spots in the bottom of the ship with the other ones who eventually got sick. The ones on top of the deck now begged for water, and this doctor thought, probably giving them their last wishes, he splashed them with the water. But to his surprise, he realized that majority of those who were splashed with the water, up on top of the deck, they recovered. And so he experimented with this treatment again with much success. Another doctor adopted this method, but it was not accepted and somehow got lost because it did not fit the thinking of the day for the rest of the doctors around the world. And in some instances, we still face that struggle today. The natural remedy, it don't fit you. It's too simple. And one of the main reasons why it's not accepted. Exactly. Alright, even scurvy, which is caused by a lack of vitamin C, was solved around 100 years before it was actually recognized by the wider medical field. It didn't fit into their thinking, it was too easy of a solution, and so it was ignored. So this occurrence in 1777, though lost along the way, started the history of water therapy. And there's a Vincent Priesnitz of Austria. When he was only 13 years of age, in 1812, sprained his wrist. He went to pump water from the coal well, put some water on his wrist, and realized it reduced some of the pain. He then began playing with this remedy and developed it over time. He became famous, and doctors from all over the world traveled to visit him. But once again, what happened? The local physicians tried to put him out of business because they could not accept this simple remedy. Nonetheless, it became prominent and was used in various places. There was also Russell Troll, who had a hydrotherapy program, and he also advocated vegetarianism. Anyone ever heard of Sylvester Graham? Or what do you associate Sylvester Graham with? Ever heard about the graham cracker? Well, the same cracker that they use with the marshmallow to make the s'mores. It's not the same cracker, but it's the same name. Yes. So Sylvester Graham was a minister, and you could say God gave him the Health Reform message, and he gave it to his church. He was not an Adventist, but he received this, conviction. He learned and understood a great deal about nutrition. He advocated drinking pure water and eating a vegetarian diet anchored on bread made at home from flour coarsely ground at home so that it remained wholesome and natural, and all without spices or other stimulants. And he also advocated a rigorous lifestyle that involves sleeping on hard beds and avoiding warm baths. Now in 1850, they began a movement to teach in the school about health by a man named Horace Mann. So I'm just showing how down the line before it came around to the Advent faith, there were persons who were convicted of the health reform message. No one not Adventists, persons from different backgrounds. Alright. Now we come to the progress of health reform in the SDA Church. And number 6 on the paper, who was the most profound health reformer of the Advent faith?
Hello.
Before Sister White?
Hello.
No, before Kellogg, man. Alright, so we had a reformer from the beginning of the Advent movement, Joseph Bates. Yes. He began his temperance work on himself long before he became a Sabbath keeper, or even before the organization of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So though an Advent, we do know the difference between Adventists and Seventh-day Adventists, right? Because back then, they were Adventists because they were looking forward to the second coming. But now, we are Seventh-day Adventists. After they were organized, they became Seventh-day Adventists because the Sabbath came into play now and all of that. Right? He began his temperance work on himself long before he became a Sabbath keeper. Bates began to, and Bates was he was a sailor as well. I think from history, one of the things that convicted Bates, because he had a tough time accepting Sister White as a prophet, but when she was able to give him some vision, having that traveled, and he being a traveler, the description of certain places overseas, that was what brought it home for him, that this woman must be right. Alright? So he began by putting away hard liquor, the following year wine. Because a person think wine and liquor is different, but basically the same alcoholic thing. In 1821, after backsliding, he quit hard liquor permanently. In 1822, he also quit tobacco. Then he put away tea and coffee after experiencing severe stomach issues. So these are personal experiences and personal convictions, and then he would begin teaching it to others. Notice now, when he expected Jesus to return, in 1844, he changed his diet drastically by giving up meat, cheese, butter, grease, pies, and rich cakes. In 1845, he went extreme, living only on bread and water. Right? But as he understood more, he added fruits, vegetables, nuts, cereals, continuing with water as his only beverage. And we should seek to adapt that as well. Fruit juice is good fruit juice is good, but it's loaded with sugar. No natural. No, man, I'm talking. No, I'm talking the fruit juice in itself is loaded with natural sugar. So then it's
fruit juice that you would buy?
No,
fruit juice
the natural
make.
fruit juice that we make is loaded with sugar. It has natural sugar in it. The natural sugar content is high.
Yes.
Even when you make some potent carrot juice, you realize that you don't need to add any sugar. So
It's very small.
you have to be cautious in how you drink the fruit juice still. Right? No, it's the sweetness of it I'm talking when you add so many fruits on it.
So what you're saying, you don't have to add any more sweetness to the carrot juice?
It's not adding enough sugar enough. It's that in the fruit itself, there's sugar.
Natural sugar is actually very high.
But when you make fruit juice, you would not eat one mango. You would probably make a whole lot of mango, so that's a whole lot of sugar.
Okay, yes.
Though natural, it can still be bad.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's best to have water.
So we talk about temperance.
Yes. Alright, so at age 79 when he died, he was a hearty, healthy man. When you would read the Bible, it would talk about men dying in their good old age. He was still full of life or thing like that. So they did not die from sickness, but they died because God would have decided to put them to sleep. So he was very hearty and healthy when he died at 79, while James White, Uriah Smith, and most of the other leaders were having health issues. So Joseph Bates is known as the pioneer of the Advent movement, who led out most profoundly in health reform. There are many other contributing reformers before 1844. And as I said, when you read the book Story of Our Health Message, you will get a long list of other persons who contributed. Right? Let me just read something here. What Sister White says. No, actually it's from the said book. It said there were, however, other reforms to be adopted before the Sabbath keeping. Okay. I'm sorry, not that part yet. Now we come to 1844, when there was what? What happened in 1844?
Great disappointment.
Yes. And do we know what the Great Disappointment means? What happened at that time of Great Disappointment?
We were expecting the coming of Christ. It did not occur, so cleansing of the earth. And all of that, so a lot of persons were,
Disappointed.
yes. Some leave the field while a few continue to search and study.
Okay. So there was a small group that continued to study the Bible. And as they were studying, God would reveal different things to them. And God, through one of those members, Ellen White, revealed some information specifically concerning health. Now, when was the first vision based on health given? Alright, the first vision was in 1848, autumn of 1848. Anybody know what that first vision was about? Talking concerning health. Alright, her first vision was advising them to stop the use of tobacco. Yes, along with coffee and tea. And she said in letter number 5 in 1851, I have seen in vision that tobacco was a filthy weed and that it must be laid aside or given up. God revealed the effects on the mind, even the immediate effects of these products. They altered the thinking, and so God with this group was trying to help them to have clearer minds. It, however, took 15 years before tobacco was put away out of use from among the believers at that time. God was very patient, eh? Yes, even as He is with us today.
So when you say tea, that meant tea in general?
No, man, the black tea and the green tea. Yeah, those kind of tea. With the caffeine in it. It's a caffeine. The caffeine-based kind of tea. Though natural, they still have the caffeine in it, so we have to do without that. Yes. Yes. Right? And so they would, say for instance, they're having a meeting and they're puffing because they thought that it was okay to smoke. And as it says, it took majority of them 15 years. 15 years is a long time. So we thank God for mercy.
And I didn't like anyway, so that years after the only have to start.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Is coffee natural?
Yeah, it's naturally found in products, but it's not good for the body because it stimulates the nerves. Yeah, so even though coffee is a natural thing, we can't partake of it because of the caffeine properties in it.
It should be only used for external purposes.
That's the least. But if we can find alternative, because things that they apply externally can still find clean. Yes.
So as it pertains now, as you said that, as it pertains to marijuana.
Well, my personal thought about marijuana is to leave it alone because you have alternatives. Person says that it's good for pain and especially arthritic pain and the eye and all of that. And nerves. But as I said, my personal view on it is to leave it alone because of the yes. So while some things are good, but because it has bad in it, I think it's best to just leave it when you can find alternatives.
So that is why I have heard persons saying that no matter how, like the herbs that we are supposed to use or whatever for the healing, we should know proportion and how to prepare it in order to use it. You can't just use it in its raw content. Some of them will hurt. So what about those persons who use bush? They don't drink like the cocoa or the Nile or that. Which other herb would be prescribed to use as for tea or for hot everything?
Like
Peppermint and cerasee and
the orange skin. We have a whole lot of options.
What about Guinean weed? Persons just popping a handful and throw it in a pot and boil it and drink it.
But we need education. Yeah, we need more education ourselves so that when we listen to these persons, we can tell them the right way of using these things. Because to just tell them to buy some cerasee, back then when we were born in cerasee, we used to a big roll to a little pot of water, but they say that is too much for the system. So it's that.
Should be dried before.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
At least.
No, I think with certs you can have it green, but others they ask you to quail it in the sun or something. But I think
No, you don't
can
dry.
No,
But you don't
you don't
dry.
dry it in the
You don't
sun.
dry herbs in the sun.
And usually if you're having well I was told, usually if you're having herbal teas and such, but natural, you shouldn't have it more than 7 days in a row.
You break.
My aunt was a nurse and she told us that's fine.
But I'm saying you don't dry herbs in the sun. You dry it in the
No,
shade.
you dry it in the shade.
Alright. So during that time, where the issue of tobacco was being dealt with, some of the individuals in the group, while studying, learned that God advised not to use pork and its products, right? They began to teach and share this with others, but God sent a message through Sister White saying, leave it alone. Not yet. Don't teach that yet. I will bring it in at the right time. Yes, I will bring it in at the right time. Our loving God knew that this group was not ready to accept all the reforms at once, as this would cause dissension. So I'm just going to read what Sister White knows. It's not Sister White that says it, but it's from the book, The Story of Our Health Message. There were, however, other reforms to be adopted before the Sabbath-keeping Adventists were ready to accept the health reform principles. It is a well-known thought of human nature to rise up against any interference with self-indulgent habits. Had the health message with its call to self-denial been introduced prematurely, it might have caused distraction and brought in confusion. It seems to have been in the providence of God, therefore, that the great fundamental spiritual truths should be presented first. By these, the body of believers was unified and knit together before it was to be tested by the introduction of certain health reform message, which, though a matter of great importance, was nevertheless secondary. So God wanted them to have that unity first before certain deeper reformation had to take place. So he said, leave the pork issue for now. He will bring it in at the right time. And that pork issue, when you read the book, it's even James White himself, was opposing that. Though it is in the Bible, he was saying that, basically like it's not, the same mindset now where people will say it's not salvific.
Yes.
So they can still partake. He was opposing the pork itself, just the same. But eventually, they gave it up. When was the second health vision given? In February 12, 1854. Anyone know what that one was about? So the first vision was about what? Now the second one was about cleanliness of the body, the home, and the surrounding. Very important, eh?
Yeah.
You would think more about it if you realize how persons lived back in that time. How many times a day did they bathe? Once. Back then they didn't have showers to bathe every morning. They weren't so privileged as us, so they would bathe once a month. Once a month.
That is not my era.
It wasn't until in the 1820s that persons started bathing daily. Right? So there was still, that's why there was a lot of diseases back then. And thing. The second thing in that vision was to avoid grease in the diet. And this grease was from animal fat, whether pork or beef. Alright? They were also advised.
What would be your description of this? Oil, animal fat, oil?
Oil can fall.
Also, as sister say, animal fats.
Animal fat.
No, she said
Grease
grease.
that.
Animal fat.
Grease
Grease is
from
animal
animal fat, you know.
But grease does not cover animal fat as what's like the main description. What grease is.
Anybody want to answer that? Basically, she said animal fat.
Animal fat.
Yeah.
Grease is animal fat. You wouldn't call olive oil grease. Is it? Well, I wouldn't call it. I wouldn't call it.
It's not bad grease.
Because olive oil is not bad for you. So why would you
No,
call it
but
grease?
it's the oil, you know, it's still considered it's still be considered grease because it's oil.
Yeah.
It's oil.
But some,
Grease like is mixed with some
Grease is fat. Grease is fat.
Okay. Animal fat. Alright, they were also advised not to overeat.
But even the things that they use, even though it's certain different, the thing that they use in the car, the thing that they use. The grease, they call it too, the thing that they put into the bearings. It's grease, they call it too.
Yeah.
So we have to look at. So cheese would be grease.
Alright.
So
They were
she's saying anything that has fat in here. Anything that
but that grease, when you put in the car, we don't have any fat. It's grease, but it's not fat.
alright, we'll look at that
So it's different.
deeper. They were also advised to avoid overeating and also to avoid the use of fine grains and use coarse grains instead. So God was giving them a gradual knowledge of things they did not at the time understood. But He was trying to help them to understand that this was the pathway of getting a better knowledge of salvation. In Testimonies for the Church, in manuscript 3, 1854, Sister White says, I saw that God was purifying upon Himself a peculiar people. We will have a clean and holy people. He will have a clean and a holy people, a people in whom He can delight. I saw that God would not acknowledge an untidy, unclean person as a Christian. His frown was upon such. Our souls, bodies, and spirits are to be presented blameless by Jesus to His Father. And unless we are clean in person and pure, we cannot be presented blameless to God. I saw that the houses of the saints should be kept tidy and neat, free from dirt and filth and all uncleanness. I then saw that the appetite must be denied. If we wish good health, we must take special care of the health that God has given us. Oh, the next question is, when was the Seventh-day Adventist Church organized?
When was the third division?
Huh?
When was the third health division?
Okay, sorry. When was the third health vision given? In June 6, 1863. Anyone know what that vision was about?
1863.
So 2 weeks after the official organization of the church, while in worship, moments before the start of the Sabbath, Sister White was given the most profound of the health reforms. And this vision was for 45 minutes long. At that time, James White was sick, and so they were praying, asking God to bring healing. God revealed that healing could come only by way of reformation. What was so important about this third vision? It was emphasized that, in this vision was emphasized that our lifestyle affects our eternal destiny. So that was the whole summary of this third vision. Our lifestyle affects our eternal destiny. 2 weeks after this, James and Ellen visited Otsego, Michigan over the weekend to to encourage the evangelistic workers there. As the group bowed in prayer at the beginning of the Sabbath, Ellen White was given a vision of the relation of physical health to spirituality, of the importance of following right principles in diet and in the care of the body, and of the benefits of nature's remedies, clean air, sunshine, exercise, and pure water. And that is coming from the Ellen White biography. It was a serious message that eternal life was dependent upon our lifestyle habits, that our minds must be healthy enough to appreciate and accept the gift of salvation. And at this time, two of our sons were sick. Willie and I forgot the other one's name. The first one, when he was sick, they continued with the conventional remedies, and he died. And at this time they said, let us try the natural remedy. And they tried it with, Willie had pneumonia, and he was healed by the natural remedies. And even after that, she was so exhausted. And she was laying in her room, and she opened up, and fresh air came in, and she felt better. And it was at that time God gave her, before Willie was healed, or during that period, God revealed to her that the same fresh air that made her feel better is the same fresh air that Willie also needed as well. So they say even in the cold, even when the time is cold, if you have to wrap up in blanket, open the windows and let the fresh air come in, especially if you're sick.
Yes.
Especially for a person with respiratory issues. Alright. And she says in letter 4, in 1863, I saw that it was a sacred duty to attend to our health and arouse others to their duty. We have a duty to speak, to come out against intemperance of every kind, intemperance of working, in eating, in drinking, in drugging, then point them to God's great medicine, water, pure soft water, for diseases, for health, for cleanliness, for luxury. I saw that we should not be silent upon the subject of health, but should wake up minds to the subject.
What exactly is pure soft water? Because I was trying my best to do some research on it.
I think brother,
wasn't clean.
I think Pastor
Pastor
was,
did that thing.
yes, like Pastor
He
Henry
was
someone
saying-
detail on the water.
He was saying distilled water is the best. Pastor told that from distilled water.
So number 9 or number 10. When was the Seventh-day Adventist Church organized? Alright. Today, medical science is deeply interested in the functioning of the brain. For years, they showed interest in the heart, but now it's the brain. They are now figuring out the connection between nutrition and the brain, and are now advocating what we have been given for almost 2 centuries. Right? For years, they laughed at the idea of the benefits of whole grains, fruits, and vegetables as a means of helping the body. Now they are the one at the forefront pushing these while we. Yes. So in the health vision in June 1863, Sister White was shown that sacred duty is to care for the health. That temperance refers to more than just liquor, but working, eating, drinking, even in rest. She was also shown that a meatless diet is best. She was shown the natural remedies are better than drugs. Right? And as I said before, the whites had their fair share of struggling, accepting many of the health reforms, especially where diet is concerned. Putting away unclean meats and overworking overworking. Her husband suffered greatly from overworking. He would take on the load because he think they're not going to do it properly. Or even when he asks persons to do it and they don't do it properly, he just went ahead and everything. He went through it.
And did his manual work just the same. His homework,
Yes,
he worked for a living, a livelihood, and he worked in the ministry as well.
And even I think he was 36 one of the time when he had stroke paralysis.
Age of 36.
He went overboard, but this third vision was to show that even though he was employed in the work of God, he still had to temperance. Yes, he had to be temperate. Testimonies, volume 3, page 161. I was again shown that the health reform is one branch of the great work, which is to fit a people for the coming of the Lord. It is as closely connected with the third angel's message as the hand is to the body. Yes, as the hand is connected to the body. He designs that the great subject of health reform shall be agitated and the public mind deeply stirred to investigate, for it is impossible for men and women with all their sinful, health-destroying habits to discern sacred truth, through which they are to be sanctified, refined, elevated, and made fit for the society of heavenly angels in the kingdom of glory. So after the vision in 1863, she was then advised a little later that there should be a health institution, a place where the sick people of the church could go to regain health. Now in 1866, a health journal was started to edify the church in helping them to start making lifestyle changes. Selected Messages, Book 2, page 54. The way in which Christ worked was to preach the word and to relieve suffering by miraculous works of healing. But I am instructed that we cannot now work in this way, for Satan will exercise his power by working miracles. God's servants today could not work by means of miracles, because spurious works of healing, claiming to be divine, will be wrought. And in letter 53, 1904, she says, for this reason the Lord has marked out a way in which his people are to carry forward a work of physical healing, combined with the teaching of the word. Sanitariums are to be established, and with these institutions are to be connected workers who will carry forward genuine medical missionary work. Thus, a guardian influence is thrown around those who come to the sanitariums for teaching. So sanitariums were the way to go back then, and they were much easier to set up, and God would have received the glory. She says, they should not depend upon their skill alone. If the blessing, instead of a frown, of God be upon the institution, angels will attend patients, helpers, and physicians to assist in the work of restoration, so that in the end, the glory will be given to God and not to feeble, short-sighted man. And that's from Testimonies, Volume 1, 562. Next question, who was the most successful physician in that time period? Who was the most successful physician in that time period? That's right, Dr. Kellogg. Anybody know about Dr. Kellogg? J.H. Kellogg? Yes. Alright, so she got the vision that Health Institute as an educational centers were to be opened. Physicians were to have the highest training. Now, Dr. Kellogg was sent to Bellevue, New York for special training. The Whites helped to finance him, and so they had a physician with very high training, along with other physicians. Success came by following God's direction. Now in 1862, progressing onward, There was a publication of the Health Journal, and also the Western Health Reform Institute was established in Battle Creek. The therapies used were exercise, hydrotherapy, and vegetarian diet, no alcohol, no tobacco, no coffee or tea, so they were following the counsels. Alright, very simple therapies were used. They were preventative therapies and also healing therapies in one. So simple, the medical world could not accept it. Alright, so in 1866, the Battle Creek Sanitarium was built. In 1878, School of Health was opened. 1883, School of Nursing. In 1895, School of Medicine was opened, which is called the American Medical College. In 1901, medical and surgical sanitariums opened across America and the world. And this is what Sister White had to say about Dr. Kellogg. My dear brother, as I have before written to you, I know that the Lord had placed you in a very responsible position, standing as you do as the greatest physician in our world, a man to whom the Lord has given understanding and knowledge, that you may do justice and judgment and reveal the true missionary spirit in the institution, which is to represent truth in contrast with error. That's found in letter 206, December 1899. She said, as you looked to God in your critical operations, angels of God were standing by your side, and their hands were seen as your hand, performing the work with an accuracy that made the beholders surprised. That is in letter 73, 1899. And again she wrote, who has been by your side as you have performed these critical operations? Who has kept you calm and self-possessed in the crisis, giving you quick, sharp discernment, clear eyesight, steady nerves, and skillful precision? The Lord Jesus has sent his angel to be to your side to tell you what to do. A hand has been laid upon your hand. Jesus, not you, has guided the movements of your instrument. Testimony, volume 8, 187. So, Sister White was she loved Dr. Kellogg. You know, she admired him a whole lot. You know, with Dr. Kellogg, the ratio of deaths were 1 to 160. 1 to 160. So basically, you can say there was no death, almost. While in other hospitals, the death toll was 20 to 30% from surgeries. Alright? I don't have the projector to show you the old sanitariums and all of those things. The rich from America, Europe, and other places in the world came to the Battle Creek Sanitarium. It was a place of healing and health education. And this is where the health breakfast cereal started. Right? You know the Kellogg cereal? Not the one they have in the supermarket now, right? Dr. Kellogg he would be disappointed at these production. For one reason, the kind of flour that is used. He used whole grain flour. Now they're using white flour and all kind of things. Right? Yes. So now it's just a name still they're making money off the name. But persons are not benefiting from the product itself. Dr. Kellogg was also promoting soybean products. And there's a Dr. Harry Miller who was in school at that time at the college. He was later known as the Chinese doctor. He went to China and was working with them, being able to perfect and bring about a palatable soy milk. Mothers were not always able to breastfeed. They didn't have the availability of cow's milk, and so a lot of babies would die. This invention of soy milk was able to therefore sustain the babies. And soy milk is a different story in these days again, right? And this is what Sister White says in Constant Diet 259. I must now give to my brethren the instruction that the Lord has given me in regard to the health food question. By many, the health food are looked upon as of man's devising, but they are God's originating as a blessing to his people. The health food work is a property of God and is not to be made a financial speculation for personal gain. And we see that's going on now, where persons are opening up restaurants in the name of health, not promoting healing, but just as a means of revenue, of financial gain, because they see that a lot of persons are going the healthier way now, so they're buying into the market, which is not the option, which is not the ideal reason for going into the health food business. The light that God has given and will continue to give on the food question is to be to his people today what the manna was to the children of Israel. The manna fell from heaven, and the people were told to gather it and prepare it to be eaten. So in the different countries of the world, light will be given to the Lord's people, and health foods suited to their countries will be prepared. Next question is, what is pantheism? Anybody know what is pantheism?
God is in everything. God is in everything.
Alright, so there is pantheism and there is panentheism. There's pantheism and there is panentheism. Right? And Dr. Kellogg was going on fine. Very good. Right? But then storm clouds of pantheism teaching started to invade the school and the church. Within the last 3 to 4 years of his association with the church, Dr. Kellogg began promoting certain concepts about the personality of God. The teaching of pantheism is that God is not a personal being, but a force. It is a force, a power. Yes, Sister White used the word essence. It's an essence, energy, power. Right? Kellogg, however, did not go that far as to say God is a power or force. This is what Sister White says that he had something akin to pantheism. He taught what is called panentheism. Alright, listen carefully now. He said, yes, there is a living God, a being, but there is a part of his divinity. But there is a part of his divinity that he has given to each person, to each plant, to each animal, and so everything has divinity in it. Panentheism. So while pantheism says that God is not a being, it's just a force, it's just energy, essence, Kellogg says that panentheism, what Kellogg was embracing is that God puts his divinity in everything. So God is in everything. Right? And so he began to teach this in a subtle way that it was not first recognized, and in a short time, almost half the General Conference and physicians at Battle Creek bought into it. In 1899, the General Conference was in session considering what to do because they did not understand it well. Sister White was in Australia at the time, and she envisioned was seeing what was happening and wrote a letter. As they were in meeting, this letter arrived and it exposed the issue, and the leaders could now take a proper stand on the issues. Kellogg's theory that God is in all substance, air, water, food, plants, etc., destroys righteousness by faith, and instead teaches we obtain righteousness by partaking of the things of nature that has divinity in them. In Eastern pantheism, everything was created by power, no living God, but they call this power God. Everything is made of this power, so everything is God. That's why the Hindus have 330 million gods, because everything is God. Right? Now again, that which is similar to this is that everything is not God, but God has placed some divinity in everything. It's basically the same thing, but one of them is a little subtler. So while he's saying there is a God, that will just pull you in to say, oh, this man believes that there is a God. But he's saying God has placed his divinity in everything. So it's basically the same concept of pantheism, but there's a slight subtlety to panentheism. Alright? The teaching of pantheism almost brought the church down. And here is a comment from Dr. Kellogg in the General Conference Bulletin in 1897. We have here, this is him speaking, we have here the evidence of a universal presence, an intelligent presence, an all-wise presence, an all-powerful presence, a presence by which every atom of the universe is kept in touch with every other atom. A force that holds all things together, that is everywhere present, that thrills throughout the whole universe, that acts instantaneously throughout the boundless space, can be nothing less than God himself. What a wonderful thought that this same God is in us and in everything. That's what he wrote. Not that we partake of God's nature, but that God actually puts his divinity in us. You understand? Mm-hmm. It's a little thing. Alright, and what are some of the modern ways of healing that teach pantheism? Alright, now let us look at some of these healing, even in the church, such as yoga and acupuncture and meditation. Empty yourself. You know, they say the power is within us to bring healing. So we have to, that's why we don't do yoga, we don't practice yoga and those kind of stuff and those form of meditation, emptying the self. And
is yoga the stretching or the intention behind it? Both. Because stretching is
certain yes.
You are releasing yourself.
Certainly.
So when you do certain you hear the yoga teacher saying, okay, do this and just...
Yes, certain form of stretching is associated with the whole concept of spirituality.
Yes.
Alright. So even in the church, such as yoga, acupuncture, meditation, and even the use of essential oils, that's something I will enlighten you more on with these essential oils, how they came about. You know,
you stated meditation, correct? But it's what we are meditating on.
No, it's the way how you meditate. It's the way how they teach you to meditate, to empty yourself and to enter some different phases.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because even Sister White says that we must meditate, but meditate on God's word.
Yes, but how we meditate is to dwell upon God's word. Right. But how they teach to meditate is to empty the self, empty yourself, and you go into these different level of the power is within us.
When I was at NCU one day, they were teaching us New Age, raw New Age. And the teacher said to us that we are to close our eyes and do like this. And imagine that a warm sensation coming into your head, coming through your body, coming to your feet. And I sat there looking at her while the others were doing what she was instructing them to do. And because she realized I wasn't following the instructions, she was mad with me.
Yes,
but I said, I'm saying, you cannot teach me except David is New Age. Mm-hmm. You never work with me. So they never liked me from I was up there because I challenged the foolishness they brought to me.
Mm-hmm. So it's even in the church. This, because Adventists practicing yoga, they're promoting yoga. And yoga is spiritualism. It's pantheism, panentheism. So many different names, it's still the same, spiritualism. It's of the enemy.
And as you mentioned that as well, even though they're saying it's yoga, just like when brethren go into like the Sunday churches and they say you must go up front and wait on the Holy Spirit. Whatever you're cleansing or freeing up yourself for to come in is not God. You understand? It's something else. So it's the same thing. They breathe out in the world, but they breathe in the church in a different guise. Yeah, so you don't tarry for the Holy Spirit. Like they're using Bible, but it's spiritualism just the same. Yes.
What if you're not really stretching the empty of yourself? You really stretches to really the pain that you actually have. Will you reconsider being partaking of spiritualism?
You just have to investigate. You just have to investigate and see the kind of stretches that you're doing and if they are really
And there
what
are
are
actually stretches that does way more onto your body
Mm-hmm.
than
Because if I stretch now, that doesn't mean that I'm calling in some form of it, but it's the way you do it. Yes. Sometimes it's the way they do it, the form that they do it in.
I know that there are few that is particular to some worship, those I know, but
Yes.
not all of them that is in yoga means that I'm doing spiritualism. That's why I ask.
Yes.
correct. And also, in eating certain food that teach that healing comes from the food. That's a part of panentheism as well, where you eat certain things and you believe that it is the food that is healing you and not God. Healing you through the food. It's the same with the essential oils where they teach that the spirits, that's why it's called essential, it's essence, the same spirit in these things that is bringing healing to you and not God bringing healing through these natural agencies. Alright? And it has been taught that disease occurs because the body is out of balance, and so it has to be manipulated and bring back into balance by this so-called energy that is within us. So we can heal ourselves, we are gods. We can heal ourselves. It's a deadly teaching.
And we have to be very careful. God make it clear. He said that in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created. He is the creator of all things. Your Sister Roden created the speaker. You want to tell me that Sister Roden made this become God as well? No, it is not God. She is the one that created the speaker. So she can even destroy this speaker. What they are saying is that if we are God, if we have God within us, we don't even have to go to God for forgiveness. We can forgive our own sin. So we don't need God anymore. And that is the main focus on that. Put God aside because we are gods as well. And we have to be very careful on that.
So in Testimonies, Volume 8, page 29, Sister White says, the theory that God is an essence pervading all nature is one of Satan's most subtle devices. It misrepresents God and is a dishonor to his greatness and majesty. And what was God's solution to this thing? In 1902, the Battle Creek fire. The sanitarium was burnt down, and then the Review and Herald publishing was burnt down as well. And Sister White said, the Lord permitted fire to consume the principal building of the Review and Herald and the sanitarium, and thus removed the great objection urged against moving out of Battle Creek. It was his design that instead of rebuilding the one large sanitarium, more people should make plants in several places. And in replacing this huge building, Dr. Kellogg wanted a 1,000-bed hospital and started immediately to draw plans for it. God sent a message saying, no, have many small institutions. But Kellogg went ahead anyhow and wrote a book to sell to raise funds to build this institution. Anyone know what the name of this book is? The Living Temple. Now this book, The Living Temple, has the theme of panentheism. The church publishing house refused to publish it, so Kellogg had it published by another publisher. This started a sort of open rebellion against the counsel of God delivered through Ellen White, who was very fond of Dr. Kellogg and pleaded with him earnestly. Yes. Yes. Just finishing up on the book, The Living Temple. She said in 5 bio 305, in the book The Living Temple, there is presented the alpha of deadly heresies. The omega will follow and will be received by those who are not willing to heed the warning God has given. Be not deceived. Many will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, We have now before us the Alpha of this angel, the Omega will be among start in nature. Alright, so there was a separation after that because he would not heed the counsels. You know, he separated himself, and in 1906 there was a final separation. And Sister White would have gotten vision to that other medical institutions were to be established, particularly in California. That's how the Loma Linda institution came about, right? And after it was established, she went there physically and confirmed that this was the place she saw in a vision. And you know the history of the Loma Linda institution. It was a very good establishment because it was built on the foundation of God and the principles of God. But it's a different story today. And they have this thing, the International Congress of Vegetarian Nutrition. They meet every 5 years. People from all over 36 nations, doctors, physicians, nutritionists, dietitians, other health professionals. What bring them together? The study of the Adventist health study. Right? And what is happening now, persons are not so much talking about plant-based food anymore because plant-based is not healthy. What they are promoting now is whole foods. Foods in their natural state. Plant-based products, they are filled with different, they are processed and then they are filled with all kind of stuff. So, and that's interesting because it is whole food that God gave us in Genesis to partake of. Alright? Sister White says, the Ministry of Healing, page 296, grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constituted chosen diet for us by our Creator. These food, prepared in as simple and natural a manner as possible, are the most helpful and nourishing. They impart a strength, a power of endurance, and a vigor of intellect that are not afforded by a more complex and stimulating diet. And so as we close here for today, there were other reforms such as dress reform, to be properly dressed and also to be modestly dressed, which was a part of the health message as well. So as we would have looked at a brief history of our health message story, I pray that it would have laid a foundation as we move forth for next week. And once more, I implore you to read the book, The Story of Our Health Message, so you can get more understanding of where we are coming from, what we have been given, and what we need to do with it. Alright? Let us pray. Oh, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your words, even your inspired words. I pray, dear Lord, that we will meditate upon it, that we will make them a part of us, so that we can be fitted to be a part of your service, even in this present time. Continue to be with us throughout the rest of the day. And may your name be glorified. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.